know you've been very strong on what you've been saying also, but I do think like it's what 7 points clear now.
7.
I think it is. Obviously, they still have a game in hand, but it was a big week for Arsenal and Man City. Big midweek for Arsenal and Man City.
What happened to the mentality monsters, Man City? Oh, once they get behind you, what happened?
What it is
where's Kim? Where's Kim?
He he ducked out.
I've been calling him out. Where's Kim? Kim? Where are you?
Where are you, Kim?
I sat on this table about a couple of months ago. Alex was on the same show, by the way. He will attest to this. And he was saying, this time of the year, you always bottle it. Yeah, it's as good as done. Remember that? You remember, don't you?
Well, I was probably saying it as well, but hopefully it does.
Well, you want
happen.
to speak for Kim, do you?
Well, no, Kim is
Kim
he
can
puts a lot
represent
of chest on City still winning the league.
I actually might text him. I actually might
Do you
text
know
him and
what?
ask
City
how he
could still
feels.
win the quad. Has anyone thought of that?
Well, they could.
How are they going to win
Still
that?
in the quad.
How are they going to win that?
They could.
That
Not
winning
that I want them
games,
to. Jesus,
That's going
no
to
way.
fall at the first hurdle when we beat them in a couple of weeks' time at Wembley. It's not aesthetically pleasing as they was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Fine, but if we win the title this year playing the brand of football we're playing at the moment, I for one, and I'm pretty sure Ella as well.
Don't you mean when?
When?
According to you.
Okay.
You said there's no title race.
Yeah, when? When?
Wait, did you say there's no title race?
He's been saying
Well, I
that
was
since
saying
like
that for
November.
tongue in cheek,
He's been saying that for months.
But you know what? These men have been running with it, so hey. But it looks like I'm going to be proved right. But anyway, to the point I was making, if we win the league or more, because let's face it, it could well be more than just a league. Playing the brand of football that we're playing at the moment, I for one anyway will have absolutely no qualms. Cry more is what I say to people. Cry more.
And I got to say, just obviously staying on Arsenal a bit, is Fabian Hürzeler's comments. Like I bumped into someone earlier on today in Tesco's, and we ended up talking about it for a little bit. I do think, as much as so with Arne Slot came out the other day and he's basically saying he doesn't necessarily enjoy watching Premier League games at the moment because he feels they're kind of boring. And I remember saying, I think you were on the show as well when we talked about it, and I said I agree with him in isolation, saying that I'm not as I don't know if it's to do with my club not having been great in the last 14 months pre-Michael Carrick, but like months. I don't, Hey, look, I'll give you 2 seasons. Obviously, a couple of seasons ago, we actually won trophies, something that you're trying to do this season.
That is true.
But for me, it's like I am less excited to tune into Premier League games than I was a couple of seasons ago, because I think the way that the game is being played, it's so... I don't know if you guys have seen the Gareth Bale podcast when he went on the Overlap today.
I started it, but didn't finish it on the train down.
It's a great podcast. And at one point he says he reckons these days, the game is played too much by the managers. He basically said he thinks managers have more control than ever over the team. The team just execute the manager's vision. Whereas he was like, when I was at Real Madrid, because he was talking a lot about Ancelotti, and also they were talking about Sir Alex Ferguson, as they always do every episode. Is they're basically just like, they let the players play, but now Gareth Bale's basically saying, even since he's left the game, obviously he retired only a couple of years ago, he said since he's left the game or left European football, he was like, now it's just the manager's game being executed by the players. And I do think he's got a good point, but then when it comes to Hürzeler's comments, where he shouted, was it Hincapié was doing a throw-in, and he's shouting at Hincapié, just being like, just play proper football, blah, blah, blah. That, I think, was way too far.
You know what I think about Hürzeler? I actually enjoyed it. I do think he's mugged himself off, he's made himself look like a bit of a clown, but I actually thought it was quite entertaining. We need more of this type of stuff. I want more beef, because beef sells. You know what I mean? It's just the problem with Hürzeler.
Well, I mean, you follow a lot of boxing. You know that very, very well.
The problem with Hürzeler, though, is that, as Kenya said, shout out to Kenya, it's difficult to take a man like him seriously because he's done nothing in the game.
Yeah, but he's
if it was one of the more established managers.
He's coming up. He's not. You can't throw that. It's like saying, well, look at Rio Gamora. He's only 17. What does he know? It's not his fault. He's just started his career. But I think...
No, what I'm saying, speak from a position of strength. He's done nothing.
Yeah, but...
So I mean, if you're coming at Arsenal...
Yeah, but you say he's done nothing. He's done extremely well to become the youngest Premier League manager ever. Is that nothing? You've got to respect his journey. It's just started. Yeah, he's obviously shooting up a bit.
Okay, you're right with that. You're right. But if I look at the table and I see that Arsenal are first in the table...
I know.
And he's 11th and struggling. I mean, a couple of games ago, Brighton fans were actually calling for his head. Yeah. So for you to then come with this tirade of a...
I don't think you should take it so personal.
No, I'm not. I'm saying I'm here for it.
Because
the only problem with it, I find it difficult to take him seriously.
He might have a different style of football that he loves watching, as do probably most people. But the style that is winning...
Got that so exciting. What style of football would Brighton play?
It's not
That's so
necessarily what
enamouring.
Brighton got. It might just be his own football philosophies. Forget Brighton for a sec. He might have loved
No, but that's
watching
his-
Barca
he's
in
managing
2015, 2011. He might have loved watching, the Bayern team of old with Thiago in. Or I think people associate winning teams and champion teams, era-defining teams, playing in a certain way. They're the ones that you remember for the longest. If you think back to the Brazil 70s, well, this is just my opinion. If you think back to the 70s when Brazil won it, the Spanish tiki-taka in 2010, people remember those teams. What he might be implying, and I'm not him, so I don't know what he is or isn't, what he might be implying is the majority of football fans wouldn't mind seeing a championship potential winning team playing in a beautiful way that appeases everyone and is attractive to watch on the eye, not necessarily the grappling and, the corners, the
Yeah, but
traditions.
is it only Arsenal that do that?
No,
It
it's
isn't,
not. It's the
but-
whole
Yeah, but he's singling
damn
Arsenal out.
league.
That's my point. He's singling
but
Arsenal out.
he kind of throws his hat in a ring
he had
of
also
other
just
people at the
played
minute
Arsenal.
that are saying like football isn't great to watch at the minute. You've seen what Bale just said there. There is this wave maybe of people that think, well, this crop of football that we've got in the Premier League at the minute is basically WWE.
Okay, but fine. What I'm saying, though, and I think I'm right in saying this, is he singled Arsenal out.
Well, he
He's
just
not-
played
But he
them.
also had just played
them.
Arsenal.
So it's
No, no, I'm
relevant.
talking in the
When-
lead up to the
when-
game.
Or was it in the lead up to the game
Yeah,
as well?
But they're going to
Yeah, he was
ask him.
talking
The journalists
enough
are going to
crud.
prod him as well,
Yeah.
aren't they? You have to understand he wouldn't just come out and say stuff like that about
If they-
Arsenal.
if they-
It's the
if they were playing
journalists
Bournemouth
going,
at home.
prodding him, going,
Yeah.
"Oh, what do you think about Arsenal style?"
But I feel
Knowing that
like-
that's going to make headlines.
I feel like what he said, being like, I'll never be that kind of coach that's trying to win the game in that way.
That's going
I-
to come back to bite him, by the way.
First of all,
100%.
I'll be the first person to say that I've not particularly enjoyed watching Arsenal this season. A lot of the games.
As in from like an aesthetics
Yeah,
perspective.
of course. It's not been. The football that we've seen under Arteta like 3 years ago was lovely, but I guarantee if Arsenal would be playing that aesthetic football right now, we wouldn't be where we are. So, when you say
Wait, isn't
trying
that
to
the whole
win that
point
way,
why it changed like this? Because a few seasons ago it was Arsenal scored 100 goals, but then he kept finishing second and fifth and stuff. Which is why Arteta made the
what
shift.
we were doing wasn't working, and I think it's not just us that's made the shift now. It's well, let's be honest, the majority of the league.
Yeah, which
It is
team in the
not-
Premier League at the moment is playing this aesthetically beautiful football? Who?
None of them really.
Right. So why is he singling out Arsenal? That's
Apart from
what I'm
us,
saying.
obviously.
I still think when I watch,
one game
Man
against
City,
City.
I still think that Man City played quite nice football. Albeit they're not really, no, they're not necessarily.
It's nowhere near the City of a few seasons
no,
ago.
but I still think they play a more aesthetic brand of football than Arsenal do right now.
It was a dramatic shift as soon as they signed Haaland.
Yeah.
Because when
system
they
changes.
I think the City's best football was the kind of last season of Aguero starting every
Yeah.
single week, and also that season where they played De Bruyne as a false nine. That
Yeah.
was, and also was Aguero's last season the Centurions one? Am I getting that wrong?
No.
I don't know.
No. That was 17-18.
That was
He stayed
17-18.
till 2021.
Was it that late?
2020. He went to Barcelona.
When he went to Barcelona and then retired. Yeah, but
When
I think
Liverpool won the title
everyone-
last
everyone's
season, I
football has
don't
regressed.
recall them playing any enthralling football. There was
No,
some
but
good
to be
games.
fair, they need to
We did,
because they
though.
had Mo Salah.
We did.
No, there was some good games. He scored some good goals. Fine, but he wasn't like getting me out of my seat every week.
But it wasn't half the
getting me out of
Premier
my
League
seat.
teams doing what they're doing now.
It's a better brand than I think what we're seeing from Arsenal this season.
I beg to differ.
But
ultimately, I don't
it
care.
isn't just Arsenal.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
but
as an
I
Arsenal
also
fan,
don't
yeah,
care.
you shouldn't care. You're winning the league.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. For the last two games, I've been watching the game and I've been like, I'm stressed. It looks like we might not get it over the line just because the performances have not been
No,
there.
but that's because, with respect, me and you watching Arsenal, we're emotionally invested.
Of course, we're emotionally
So
invested. But I
that's
don't think.
slightly
But the
different.
football hasn't been great, Lauren.
No,
The
it
last two
hasn't been
games.
great. No,
There's
I mean,
actually
matter.
a really good comment here from Justin0306 3263 says no one plays attractive football at the moment because of the fear of losing. That does actually, I think, raise quite a good point in that because the Premier League says I was speaking about this with Richard in the office beforehand. Is that I personally think, although there are comments and people say the standard of the Premier League is just lowered a lot. I personally think it's not necessarily the standard of the Premier League lowering in recent seasons. Like maybe the absolute cream of the crop isn't as good as the cream of the crop from 4 years ago. for example, like Man City's incredible team. With all due respect, Arsenal aren't near that. But obviously, then they are at the moment best team in the league, obviously top of the league. But I do think because the Premier League has become so even. You've got anyone can get a result against anyone. I know it's the cliche that anyone can get a result against anyone, but there's a full circle loop. You've got Wolves who couldn't do anything in the first half of the season, drawing against us, beating Liverpool, beating Villa, drawing against you. Yeah. And it's maybe there is a brand of way that people are too scared, managers are too scared or don't think it's worth the risk of playing a riskier, more expansive, interesting style of football because the mentality is, you can't lose. And the best way to not lose is either a lower block, a more physical team, winning on clear advantages like set pieces. I
mean, I've got a theory on that, and I expanded it the other day. Listen, in my view anyway, football nowadays has become a lot more organised and efficient, especially teams defensively. So what teams will typically do, especially if they're coming up against teams that have more naturally talented players than they do, is to sit deep, is to low block. So that makes them more difficult to score against. I think we can all agree on that. Mm-hmm. Now, in a relatively low-scoring game like football, if a team is defending deep and they're organised and they're well-structured and they do the basic things okay, it's a lot harder to score against them. So then what do? You have to come up with more improvised ways of trying to score goals. Hence, set pieces, long throws, stuff like that. So Arsenal, to their credit, to their immense credit, they've gone out, they've got coaches in to help him in that regard, and now we're scoring goals from set pieces. To me, Arsenal should be applauded for that. In much the same way, might I add, that teams and pundits and ex-players, they're all applauding Brentford for their long throws. Listen, if you've got a guy like Coyote that can propel the ball that far, that fast, and make it difficult for defenders, and the Brentford players can time their runs and, get goals from that, I'm not complaining about that. Fair play to them. So there's a lot of football snobbery and